Welcome to EJH British Cars. So we got the passenger door up through primer. I don't want to put color on it yet because it's still a bit cold and I like it to be a bit warmer. But it's time to get started on the driver's door. And as you recall, the driver's door has a lot of rot in the bottom, including the bottom of the door skin. So I'm going to take it apart and I'm going to replace that bottom section of the door as we did on the passenger door. But then we're also going to reskin it. So I think when I make the video, I'm not going to bother to show you putting the bottom of the door frame in, because that last video 2 weeks ago we showed you how to do that. But we'll show you how to put the skin on and attach it firmly. So let's get started. So here's the door before I start to clean it up. You can see the heavy rust here and all along there. Look at the inside of this thing. It's just awful. You can see the daylight coming through. And look at that bottom edge. How rusty. It's completely gone right here. Look at that. And it's very thin. Not quite as bad at the front, but it's in pretty sad shape. And that's why we're reskinning this one. Rather than trying to save it. So I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I also noticed that a couple of the clamps for the side curtains are missing a screw, but it doesn't seem to be broken off, so that's good. Not quite sure where the other hole for this one would have wound up. Oh, it's right there. Okay. Good, so they're all there. So I was thinking that they were probably broke off, but no. The other thing we're going to need to do is get these tacks out of here. As you can see, that one's wanting to come out anyway, so they'll probably come out pretty easy. Alright, so I got it all, the various bits and pieces off, and now I'm going to free the door skin. So I got one nail that broke off here. That one I'm just going to grind the head on. So then I'm going to take my grinder and grind on this edge. So this door skin comes from the bottom and it's folded back over all the way around. So we're going to do that all the way around to free it off. And also, before I took it any further apart, I measured this door, because by the time I get this piece out, and all that's left is this upright and that upright and this bits of wood, and that plate's not there, it's going to be like so much spaghetti. So I wanted accurate measurements now to start with. So there's my grinder. I'm going to get started on that. There's the first bit, and you can see as soon as I ground through, that just popped away. The grinding wheel going down pulled it away, and plus it's so thin. So that's what you're looking for. Alright, I've ground all the way around. You can see this is all just flappy. And you need to grind the first 3/4 of an inch or so right there, just to get this thing free. This is the piece that's folded over. And I think it should be about ready to come off. We're going to have to go through later. There must be some tacks down here on the little on the strip, just like there was on the other side. Nope. Didn't quite go far enough right there. Hopefully this should lift off now. So that edge is caught just underneath there. Slide that out. I did grind that nail up, but it was still holding this up a little bit. It was tight. Yeah. But there it is. One rusty old piece of door. So before we can consign that to the scrap heap, we'll compare it with the new skin, make sure that they're pretty close. It'll be easier to make adjustments before I put it on here. So there's the door. You can see that's all disconnected. It's all very rusty. This side, for some reason, seems to have gotten wetter than the other. And I've got one busted off screw in the latch plate here. So I'll have to see if I can get that out. Hopefully I can just grab that with a pair of pliers and twist it out. Otherwise we'll have to, it's basically just a piece of steel plate, holes and threads, and it's held underneath this piece. It's kind of like a giant capture nut. Here. You probably can't see very well because the sun's not on it. Oh, that's better. So there's a busted screw right there. And hoping I'll be able to catch it with a pair of pliers. I'll let it soak in some penetrating oil first. Otherwise, I'll have to take this piece of tin off. This is essentially a giant capture nut, so this doesn't fall down on the door when you take the latch off. Right there. So I've laid one on top of the other, and the outside looks pretty good. The only thing I'm nervous about is it looks like that point is a little bit higher up. Hard to tell. But I'll put it on the frame. We look pretty good. It really just snapped on. It's like a perfect length. And all this bit seems to fit together. And we'll have to pull it in as we fold the edges over. And that's got to get hammered down a little bit to meet the wood. But all things considered, it's not bad. Cool. So anyway, I'm going to get these off. You can see there's like the other door had the same thing. It was brazed in here and there. So we'll grind those off and get those strips out. All taken apart. So I'll cut that bottom panel out. So it undid the spot welds. We have to cut it here. There was another little weld there. We cut the spot welds. We cut it here. There was another little weld here. And pretty much the same thing over here. Cut the spot welds out. Cut that off. Cleaned it up a little bit. And we definitely have some rust here. And the same thing over here, the lower part of the flange. But that's relatively simple shape. It does have a little bit of an arc to it, as you can see. But what I'm thinking is, I'll make a right angle piece, and I should be able to use my stretcher shrinkers to put that tiny bit of curve in it. And then I'll put it on here, probably up into here somewhere. We can spot weld this. And I think I'll probably just bridge that. You know, it'll still be a little bit, but I'll just get it touching this brace for the hinge, and then down to here. And then when this piece comes over, I've been putting a bend on it there so it can spot weld here, and that will take care of that. And then it laps here, we spot weld there. I also had to take that plate out. Wasn't too bad. It just, there was a single spot weld, so I drilled it out and then used my spot weld chisel, and it came apart pretty easily. And then once I could put that stub of the screw, because one of the problems I had if I tried to grab it with the pliers, that it's inside this, so I lost the thickness of the steel and really just couldn't get a hold of it. But with that piece, I just put it in the vise and it came right out. And then you can see the wood looks like it's in pretty good shape, but a lot of the screws are kind of, see, this is probably just because the wood is shrunken, but the screw heads, I tried just now turning them, and they're not turning in this wood, which because it has been there so long, they're probably rested in position. So what I'm thinking I'll probably do, I'll just leave them be, and I'll drill another pair of screws through, just put new screws in. This all gets covered by the cockpit surround capping, so it won't matter. And you can see I had to heat all these up to get the hinge bolts out. At least on this side. On the other side, this was all messed up big time. It was like torn and bent. So we're not too bad. I'm just disappointed that there's this much rust in the flange, but I think we can work around that. that, yeah, if I'm well attached here and here, and I'll probably just weld it to that brace, and that'll be enough. It's just holding that skin. And this, when I put the new steel in down here, this is nice and strong. So there's not much left by the time we get rid of all the bad bits, is there? Anyway, it's getting late in the day, so that'll be for another time. I'll get you caught up on the progress here. We removed that keeper and added this plate with a 90, which is the flange to catch the door skin, and then spot welded the keeper back in, and also put this one in, which is just done around this brace for the hinges. Everything is a spot welder right now. When I get the MIG weld that are out to do all the work down there, I think I'm going to put at least do some, maybe not a continuous bead, but some bead there, and of course we'll weld these joints up as well. And I've made up my bottom piece. It's sectioned into two pieces so that these fit together. These are the additional bends on the end that we added to catch into this area here when we connect them. So that was not there originally, because this door frame, the three sides, was originally one piece of metal that they cut and then folded and then spot welded. So we put that in, and that'll give a little bit of additional metal there, but it shouldn't be any problem. This is only 18 gauge, and the spot welder can go up to 3/16, so they should spot that in pretty easy. And then when we're all said and done, we'll run a bead here and grind it off and do those edges as well. So one thing I need to do now is put this together, test fit it into the bottom, and make sure I got my outside dimension here the way it's supposed to be. I believe it's 28 inches, I think, from that edge, which is this line here, to that one. But I want to double check that for a weld this together, and I'll also be making sure I want to weld this together that it's all square and parallel. Anyway, so that's where we are, just starting in another day. I finished making that up last night, and we had company over for dinner. I was kind of in a hurry, so I didn't bother to tape it last night. Anyway, so I'm going to fit this up, check it for size, and then spot this together, and probably spot that into the bottom of here. I also want to do a little more cleanup of this loose rust, and then I want to treat all this stuff before I get it too far together, because it's easy to get to right now. I've been trial fitting this, and what I found is the overall size and shape is pretty good, but this corner here was too flat. And when I put the door on, this was sitting probably at least 1/4 of an inch above the curve of the door, and then this was too flat this way. Or it was too tight that way, sorry. So even when I got this curve to fit, this point was 1/2 inch off the door. So using my stretch and shrinking tool, and in this case shrinking, I shrank on here to bring this radius up, and I shrank there to bring this curl in. So this part of the curl actually looked pretty good. It really was just here. It was off by a couple of degrees, so it didn't take much, but I just took a little bit at a time and trial fitted it. Overall, it's fitting pretty good, considering that how much of this door is made from guessing where the rust used to be. Here, I'll show you it in the door. So you can see it's good and tight through here. You got a little bit of extra right here. I think I got a tiny bit of twist in the door. I clamped this down on a flat surface when I welded all this, but I think there's still a little bit of tweak in it. And that's just a little high there. This is my biggest gap, but as you can see, that sheet metal's down in that corner, so this is a variation between this door frame and this door panel, and it's a little high right here. Now this all gets capping on it, the foam in vinyl capping, so when you put your elbow out you don't bang your arm. So I think that's okay. And then when this folds over here, I think it'll pretty well just hide it. So I think that's pretty good. Also notice that the corners aren't connected, which is good because I need to fold these over, but I probably need to cut these at 45 so they'll flap into each other and not interfere with each other. And I might have to put a relief cut in this corner, maybe that one too. I'll just kind of see how it goes as I go along. I just want to go slow at it. So anyway, so I'm going to trim these corners next, and then I'm going to get the MIG out and do up all this stuff. It's a nice thing. It'll make it a lot stronger, but it'll also cover all this, you know, multi-layer edges of metal. So we'll MIG that, probably a little tack there, maybe a little bit of tacking there. Looks like I got a tiny bit of arch on this, but I don't really think it's going to matter. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll get to snipping, and then we'll see about, we'll have to fold these over to make this all one. I'm starting to work on this, so I put it on a firm surface. This is a flat body hammer with a square head because it's easy. I just started knocking it in that way. In the center of this saw, the workbench, is a little bouncy, so just slide it along, some over the leg. And you want to work your way across. You don't want to do one area all at once, because you just wind up stretching it. Just work your way down. Now, I think they actually sell a special pair of pliers to do that. And now that's laid over most of the way, I have a pair of wide mouth, they're for bending sheet metal tabs. I may work with that a little bit, but that's the general gist of it. So I'm going to work this edge a bit more. I have to be careful too, because this is trying to push its way out. Once we get it down, because we're going to go and do 4 or 5 little spot welds, or not spot welds, but a MIG weld in spots here and there to get that up. Well, I tried these and I just don't have enough strength to crimp that down, so I've been doing this. I got a piece of heavy steel stock and I put it underneath to dissipate the load, and then these are a pair of lineman's pliers, and you can do that. The big thing is I don't want to get a line of plier marks along the bottom edge. And that's closing up pretty well right there. Here, I'll take you out so you can take a look. See? And when I get it all down, I'll go through finally, I'll put a dolly underneath it and I'll just hammer it to make sure it's good and tight. So far so good. So I'm going to keep working on that. And then around here, product. This is kind of funky. I'm beginning to think I'm going to put a snip there, but doing this made this lay down a little bit again, so let's put this clamp here lightly to hold that up. I want to start laying this over and see what happens in this corner. I don't know why I don't just go ahead and snip it. I probably should, but we'll see. Anyway, I got to get it down on the edge of the bench, or I can probably put a block of wood under there. It's a lot easier to start with a hammer, get it over about 45, because trying to roll it over with the pliers is just difficult. So this seems to be better. I suppose you're seeing nothing but my elbow here. I didn't snip this corner because this one doesn't get folded over. This is the wood and this is just going to lay down on top of it. And it's got a little more elevation change than the other one, but even the other one sort of went like this into the wood. So I'll see how it goes when we get there. And you see these pliers, if you start at the end, lay it over pretty well. Take the cap out of there. Sure, I'm getting some marks on my edge even with the steel here, but it shouldn't be too bad. And just a little bit of filler. There's probably some little pings and dings on the skin of this door anyway, just from shipping. I mean, they put it in a box with a bunch of other stuff and they wrapped it up pretty well, but you know, it's been in a warehouse. And I don't think I've ever gotten a body panel that was absolutely perfect. Even when they came from the factory. It shows how old I am. I actually bought brand new TR4 fenders, front and rear, for $125 a piece from the factory at the local dealers. That's no discounts or anything. That's just me as a dumb kid walking in and saying, you know, I want to buy these parts, and not even thinking to say, well, if I buy 4, you give me a bit of a break. Because I'm sure they didn't sell them for that much money to, you know, other garages and stuff like that. So I'm getting a little puck right there from that. That's that area we've been talking about. So I'm going to just take 3 sides laid in, and these are the hard ones. Take a notch out of the curves. And see, it wasn't that bad. I haven't done this one yet. It's getting late in the day, and I'm just worried about rain here. So I'm going to make sure I get enough video so you can see what happened. This here, what I'm thinking is, because don't forget this gets a capping, so it doesn't have to look perfect, but this was just kind of laid over on the other one, and we'll probably do the same thing. And then I got to bend this one over too. I'll show you the other side. And you can see some little scratches and stuff, but it ain't bad. Actually feels a lot better than it looks, but I mean, a lot of these scratches here in the middle were on this panel when I got it, so not bad at all. And then you can see how that's moving a little bit. When I get the MIG out, I'll just tack that in and then snug this up a bit more. I don't want to trap it too hard. So for this top edge, I just hammered it down. I used a very round hammer. If you can see, the surface there is really rounded over. I made a slice there and bent that over. Did the same thing here and cut that 45 on there just to lay it over, and I'll probably wind up welding in there a little bit. I'll probably knock that over a little bit more. I may hammer this just a little bit more, but again, this is hidden by the capping, so it's not really that critical. I'm just kind of being fussy. Anyway, so that's about it for reskinning. I mean, I obviously need to go through and weld on the corners, and you guys see me welding plenty of times. There's nothing really exciting. I'll bead weld there and grind it to make a nice corner. Probably touch the corners, touch my joint here a little bit. Definitely, and this is still moving just a hair. I'll get it snug, and then I'll probably do, you know, a little spot MIG weld. So in about every 6 inches. Same thing up here and there. Nothing terribly exciting. I did clean up the inside of the frame with a wire brush and a drill, and just shot it with some of that black Rust-Oleum sells it. It's black paint that converts rust instantly, quote unquote. So I used some of that. I'd used it on the outside too. And then I'll pickle all this galvanized stuff, obviously, and then sand the face a little bit, see how that looks, see if I want to do any work on that. Probably not. But the little bit that there might be, it's actually, it feels really good. that using this 3/16 piece of steel really stops the edge of the door from getting messed up. Oh, and before I weld it, the other thing I'm going to do is make sure that these two edges are flat and parallel. It's pretty common for these doors to twist a little bit, and if they're like that, you can twist them now because this stuff's all moving, but I'll get it, you know, a couple of degrees past where it needs to be if it actually is twisted, and then put a couple of spot welds in and see how that looks, and that'll be it. So hope you enjoyed all that. This is the first TR3 door, or TR2 door, I guess they're much the same, that I've ever done. I've done a lot of TR4 doors, because the TR4, the strap that stops the door from over opening breaks, and then they all get a crease right behind where the vertical metal is in for the A-post, and you can't get it flat. So the best thing is just to cut it off, put a new one in. You still get factory TR6 doors, and they've been making the stampings without the holes for the TR6 door handles, so the door handles are different, so they fit a TR4, so that's great. They're inexpensive enough, they're just not worth mucking with. So I've done a bunch of them, probably at least half a dozen, if not 10. But it's a good skill to know. It's mostly just, with all this body work, it's just sort of taking your time, thinking about what you're doing. How am I going to make this work? It's really handy if you got, you know, we have two doors, you take one door apart and, you know, keep the other one as a reference. Hopefully it's not a rusted mess like this one's been, because it's really hard to tell what was supposed to be on this. But just take your time and really think twice before you weld anything. Double check that everything's square and level and flat and all that good stuff, because unwelding is a pain in the butt. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment, and we'll see you next time.